Hello and good morning to all joining us via Zoom and our Facebook live stream. And welcome to the Center for Enlightenment's exploration of the spiritual teachings, Jewels from Jane Elizabeth. Each Sunday will be a free-flowing adventure with teachings by Jane Elizabeth Hart, facilitated by a certified Center for Enlightenment teachers. We are working from the self-study lesson found on our website at cfenlightenment.org. We move to the next study lesson titled God Consciousness. Today's topic is how to develop God consciousness. Greg Barrett will be the facilitator for this lesson. Greg is a certified teacher for the Center for Enlightenment and longtime student of Jane Hart, studying with her for over 35 years. Jane is the author of Spiritual Power Tools, Support for Your Soul, master teacher and founder of the Center for Enlightenment. Today's course will be live streamed via Facebook. A recording will be sent out with the weekly reflections so you can access it anytime. In addition to the Sunday courses, there will be a question and answer discussion on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Link for these sessions will also be posted in the chat room. We are active on Facebook and X. Come check us out, share your thoughts, reflections, and experiences. It would also be a great support to like the postings that resonate with you. We also invite you to visit our website at cfenlightenment.org. There you will find additional self-study lessons, talks, videos, or you can search for specific topics to support your expansion in consciousness. So allow yourself to just sit back as we prepare for this journey with the prescription for spiritual alignment.
Let's take these thoughts into our hearts. We are aligned with the presence of God within. We are protected by God's love, wisdom, knowledge, and grace. The God consciousness within helps us discover more about who we are. Thank you, God, for the gift of spiritual intuition. Thank you, God, for aligning our conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mind. We are grateful. We're grateful for this quiet presence that we feel. Amen. The quiet presence that you feel is God consciousness. God consciousness might seem so far away, it might seem like a very abstract idea or understanding, but God consciousness is who you are in your heart, in the essence of your being. It isn't far away. It isn't lofty or abstract. It is here and present and now and can only be accessed when we get quiet, just quiet enough to sense something. And how might you sense this God presence? Well, to me, there are no words. There's no literal or physical experience that I can give to this, but there are certain touchstones, there are certain feelings that go along with this presence, this God awareness, this God consciousness. And so if I get quiet enough, what I begin to notice, and I'm sure you notice this as well at times, is that there's a quiet presence that shimmers. Can't describe it any other way. There's a silent sound, maybe like a faraway ocean or rushing water or hum. I'm not trying to make this a physical thing because it's reducing it into something that it's not. But these are just little touchstones. You get quiet enough, you begin to notice. Perhaps it's just a peace and a sense of well-being that you feel in your body down to your bones. I'm trying to demystify this God consciousness as we go into this lesson, because so often in our culture, we take this idea of God consciousness and we put it way up on a platform, or we put it way out there. And it's not. The God consciousness is who we are. It's who we are at our essence, in our hearts, and it's not far away. Jane has defined God consciousness as that state of awareness that is an ever evolving process, but you can't just read it in a book, you have to experience it. So much of our culture is about practices that are rituals or dogmas that are beliefs. These are outer things. That's called religion in our culture. And those are good things that have helped people as humanity has evolved up to a certain point. But have you noticed that those things are breaking down? They're breaking down for a reason, not because the world is falling apart. Well, in a sense, it is falling apart in its old forms, but because something new is emerging. And when a snake sheds its skin, it's got to slough off the old skin. When you move from one level of consciousness to another, you've got to let go of that old level of consciousness. And humanity, and each one of us, is moving from a more limited, restrictive consciousness of God, of the higher power, of the infinite awareness, into a less restrictive, more spacious, more real, more centered in our hearts awareness and experience. And so it must be moved from something that is a belief system or a thing that you do, a place you go on Sundays, or all of these things had a purpose and have a purpose. But have you noticed? I've noticed, and it sounds like a judgment, but I've noticed that the more rigid and restrictive people are about beliefs, the less maybe of the spirit of what they believe can show up, because this matters so much that that's where all the energy goes. Or when people are think that they've made it because they're going to a Sunday experience or doing, or they've joined a certain belief system or religion, that actually can stand in the way. When you reach a certain point in your development, you still have practices, you still have beliefs because you got to function in the third dimension, but these are not where you find your experience of God consciousness. Your experience of God consciousness is emerging right now, and it's doing so because you have made and you've communicated a desire and a commitment to move into a new something. And that desire and that commitment may have just shown up on the level of, I don't know what's going on. But I just can't live with my old, or I can't accept my old way of knowing things. Jane's talked about her experience when she was third or fourth grade, and her grandfather, who was an extremely um, angry minister, uh, told her family that she was going to go to hell because she was tap dancing. And that, she said, was a gift because it gave her the opening and the understanding, wait a minute, maybe when all this stuff that people are handing to me in terms of beliefs aren't really true, I've got to find out for myself what I really believe. You have to have that strong drive, that strong push to experience something firsthand and no longer accept a second-hand experience of spirituality, which is called religion. That's what religion is. The definition I'm giving it today is religion is a second-hand experience of spirituality. And by the way, that second-hand experience has value because there are people and teachers and scriptures and all kinds of things that will tell you about their experience, and that has value. But when you reach a certain tipping point in your spiritual development, it's no longer satisfying or no longer works for you to only accept the secondhand experience. You've got to make it your own. You've got to own it. You've got to make it your own. You have to have that desire, that commitment to the desire, and the will that will push you forward. This takes courage because you're going against the grain, because people in your families, people in your culture and your community will, from one side or the other, tell you that you're just all wet. They're going to tell you, well, this was good enough for us, and you got to believe the same things, or you are going to fill in the blanks, and we're going to treat you in this way. Some people have to deal with that. That's not what I had to deal with, but other people deal with the culture that says to you spirituality itself does not have value. and you just got to be a materialistic person and go get yours and satisfy and gratify your desires on a physical, emotional, and mental level, and that there's no spiritual aspect at all. Both of these sides, the rigidly religious and the materialistic, non-spiritual, are false, and they have spoken to us. And to move and break out of it, for many of us, takes a tremendous amount of courage. It takes dedication. It takes fortitude to stay with the process of unfoldment, even in the face of what appears to be opposition. And more gets revealed to you as a result. Now, many of us were raised to believe, or maybe we've heard that people believe, that there's only one path to God consciousness. There's not one anything. Well, there is oneness, but that's on a non-physical level in your heart. But there's no one path to God consciousness. There's no one right belief system or religion. All the religions have value because at their essence, they have the same exact thing, the oneness consciousness of love. And every one of them have it. The mystical awareness, the consciousness of an experience of God consciousness. And they all have it. And they also have the other stuff, which is all out in the outer formed world, beliefs and practices that are rigid and actually keep us from looking within and experiencing. My gosh, I don't want a secondhand experience. I want to know this firsthand. For those of us who are watching this video, our best way to access this next level, this next dimension of our experience of God consciousness is through meditation. The consistent practice of meditation. And as my friend told me recently, it's about consistency, not intensity. In other words, it's not about, oh, I'm going to go out and into the woods and meditate for an hour and I'm going to have this great experience. That's intensity, and that does not bear fruit. Consistency, well, consistency is how you grow a plant, how you grow a fruit tree. You've got to water it, you've got to nurture it, you've got to cultivate it, you've got to fertilize it. And the same thing goes for our spiritual growth. We've got to have consistency, and it's each day, just a little bit more. When things come up that challenge you, how do you deal with them? Do you deal with them in a consistent way where you just say, I'm going to welcome every situation, every problem that comes into my life and say, thank you for this opportunity to grow and to learn about God consciousness? Because every one of those situations, every one of your neighbors, your family members, the world situation, every one of these challenges that you're dealing with, the limitations, the financials, they all are here for you to grow into God consciousness. And it sometimes, as Jane calls it, it's a Christmas present that you have to unwrap. It's in there, but you can't see it because of the wrapping. The wrapping is the circumstance, but there's always something there. There's always something there that is that can be uncovered, and you can grow into greater and greater awareness. Again, the greatest and best way to develop your God consciousness is through meditation, because meditation is an experience. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be intellectualized. It just is. And this is important because the process that unveils your God consciousness is here in your heart as you connect with your true self. And the only way to connect is to get quiet enough to sense that presence, sense that quiet something, that presence, that shimmering presence, that quiet, silent sound, that feeling of well-being that goes deep into your beingness. All of these things can be experienced only through the quiet, the silence of meditation. But it's got to start with an intense desire. A desire for what? A desire for the truth of your being, a desire to uncover the potential within you, a desire for something more. Sometimes it's a desire to just get out of the pain. Hitting bottom is sometimes where that desire starts, but it's the desire to know the something more that is God consciousness. And then we back up that desire with a commitment to it, and then we use our will, which usually shows up for us as patience. Patience is taking it in a consistent day by day process, because this is a process of unfoldment. Patience is the key to unfolding the God consciousness because it comes in small steps and stages. The God consciousness reveals itself. That's why they call it self realization. It reveals itself in small increments. And after every step that you take, there's another step to take, and another, and so on. You are developing your God consciousness because you are moving from your limited human consciousness into your full potential in the infinite awareness of God. Well, that sounds very lofty, but here is where you feel it. Here's where you know it. And it's a knowing, it's not concept. I'm here talking to you, and it looks like I'm talking to you about concepts, intellectual understandings, but these are only signposts. This is where you're really going into your direct experience, which can only be experienced in the silence of your heart. That potential for who you are lives right here. And what is it? It is who you are. It isn't something that's far away. But the key is to move past the just believing in it or talking about it or reading about it or learning about it or thinking about it and move into an actual direct experience, which may seem so far away sometimes. I mean, sometimes we wake up in a bad mood. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get caught up in my everyday humdrum life. But there, and we say to ourselves, where is it? Where is that God consciousness? I don't know. I'm not experiencing it right now. That's the time to get quiet, to get quiet enough because it's right here. All you got to do is get quiet enough. And sometimes just putting your hand on your heart and closing your eyes, sometimes keeping them open, but moving into that quiet presence. Jane says in the video, we must own it. But how do we own it? How do we become that spiritual being that we truly already are? Jane says in the video we're going to watch, if God is who I am, why don't I feel it? That's what she said to herself on this journey. And we've all said that to ourselves. But the only answer is to get quiet enough to feel it, to fully realize that potential. And potential is one thing. I remember taking a class in science in high school, I think, and we learned about potential energy and kinetic energy. Potential energy is something that has not been expressed. It's a potential, but it's not been utilized yet. So you got a battery, for instance, and it's just sitting on a shelf. That's potential. But if you plug it in and you're running a drone with it, that's kinetic energy. We're talking about moving from the potential and realizing it and expressing it. The image once came to me of a sports car, let's say a Lamborghini, and we all have the potential because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, of the infinite awareness. So we all have been in this image, in this symbolism. We've all been issued a Lamborghini. That's everybody's got one. Well, what are we doing with it? Well, some people don't even know they have it. Other people have taken it and filled it full of dirt and are growing flowers in it. Other people are taking it and just puttering down to the grocery store and buying a loaf of bread and coming back slowly. And other people take it out on the track and take it up to 180. Not a perfect analogy, but it's the potential that becomes realized, that becomes experienced. And you are beginning to become aware that you were issued this incredible experience, but it's up to you to experience it. It's your responsibility to fully realize yourself as God in action, to become the potential of God in action. And the way we do that is through meditation. Jane said to herself, I'm going to find out what Jesus found out. She was raised in a very traditional religious background, and she saw Jesus, and she knew, she could sense that what he was about was real. But she didn't want to just read about it, go to church, and then spend the other 6 days like everybody she knew doing something else. She said, I wanted to find out what Jesus found out. That means moving beyond saying the right things to say or believing the right things to believe, even because beliefs are okay, but they're on the intellectual level. You got to move into the next level up, which is intuition. Jane says, don't settle for a secondhand experience. Don't settle for somebody else telling you or just reading about it. She says, the I am presence in you is saying, wake up, wake up. There are new ideas. These are new ideas that are coming forth in you, new understandings, new awarenesses. And as we look at the world around us, we say, why doesn't everybody else just wake up? I mean, this world is such a difficult place. Why are people behaving the way they behave? Why are there all the problems that are there? Well, the truth is that we are all awakening, and it's through the very difficulties themselves that the key is being given to awaken. Grappling with these problems spiritually, I'm going to use the word forces us to utilize and to reach down deep for spiritual resources. Don't think that the times of all the great world spiritual teachers were all la-di-da. Frankly, they were tougher than the times we're in right now. I mean, Jesus went out and spoke to crowds where at least a quarter of the people were enslaved. Um, the other great teachers had other problems in their environments. There's no ideal physical third dimensional reality into which all this comes forth. In fact, the very fact that it's not ideal forces us to go, you know something? I'm not comfortable here in this circumstance. I'm going to look within and I'm going to find something new. Part of this finding something new, Jane gets into the video where she talks about recognizing that she had many past lives. And even if you don't remember your past lives, and you don't have to, because some people need to and some people don't. And there's a certain point in your development where this may come to you, it may not. But you do remember your past lives every day of your life, in that you have these inexplicable feelings and thoughts, and you're drawn to something, or you have an aversion to something, or people, places, things. As you look at the circumstances of your life, they are the result of your past lives. So that is how you remember your past lives. You look at I look at my environment in which I live, and I realize, my gosh, where I live in this condo complex, it's, somebody suggested to me, it's almost like you're in a monastery with a lot of other people, and all kinds of stuff is going on, and I get deal with all kinds of wild stuff. And in order to grapple with that or deal with it, I've got to search deep within and find my resources. But this is how we remember our past lives, is through the circumstances of the life we've got right now. Your past lives, Jane often likes to say, your past lives constitute a string of little eyes in lowercase with a dot on top, a string of little eyes. And you are here to learn what you didn't learn before in those lifetimes. You're here to uncover ultimately the I am presence. And this may be the first of those little eyes in which you're going to become aware of the big I, the I am presence, that God consciousness. And Jane says there are many aspects to that God consciousness. So take what's there that's revealing itself each day, and don't be complacent about it. Don't just fall asleep into your comfort zone. It's fine to watch a movie or to do this or to do that, but don't let yourself become complacent. Does your understanding and your definition of God or of spirituality limit your unfoldment? That's a question to ask yourself. Look inside what you believe, how you've carried these beliefs from before, from when you were a child or when you were younger? And do you need to let go of a limited view of God? As when I first met Jane, she shared with me that her understanding of God bears almost no resemblance to what it was when she began the journey. It encompasses it, but it's so much more. So, does your understanding of God or spirituality limit you? The answer is yes, because you're always moving from one level to another, to another, to a greater expansion of infinite intelligence, of cosmic understanding. In the video, Jane says, I almost can't use the word God anymore because it comes with so much baggage. Infinite understanding, this infinite intelligence, the cosmic understanding. But in this movement into God consciousness, we've got to do our work. And that work often takes the point of, or the form of confronting and overcoming all the resistance that comes up in the face of that movement, because everything unlike that God consciousness unfoldment comes up. Love brings up whatever's in its way. So the love, the desire you have, the desire in your heart for God consciousness will bring up everything that's unlike it. And what form does that resistance take in your life? Well, sometimes it just takes a bad mood. That's a form. Sometimes it takes circumstances that you must overcome. So look at where the fears come up, where the anger comes up, where the sadness comes up, where this resistance comes up in the face of your movement into God consciousness. And also ask yourself, what's my process looking like right now? What is my next spiritual step? Take each successive spiritual step and take it in turn, and then own it, then understand it, then use that understanding to move you into another step and yet another. This is not a one and done process. This is an unfoldment of your awareness of your heart, and your heart is infinite. I keep pointing here, but that's just a symbol. Your heart, that center of who you are, is infinite. You cannot rest on your laurels ever. Jane says that even at the level that she is at, which is a very advanced level, I can only imagine, she's continuing to take steps. This growth, this expansion, this understanding never stops, even for those experiencing like she's experiencing. If this experience, if this process of unfolding spiritually is like climbing a mountain, people often talked about it's climbing a mountain. Don't get on a ledge somewhere. Sometimes you get on a ledge and you've got to regroup, but you've got to keep pushing on. Don't get comfortable with being on a certain ledge. I was at a certain point in my life when I was feeling stuck and I was meditating and I just saw a ledge and that I was camped out on that ledge and I was not taking my next step. And so I asked, what is my next spiritual step? And I re-engaged and I started to move back up the mountain. This means also letting go of the past, letting go of what we're familiar with, what we're comfortable with, our comfort zones, and letting go, as I shared a moment ago, of our limited understandings of spirituality and religion. There's a lot of religion that's shutting down now, and people are saying that's a terrible thing. It's not. Jesus talked about it. He said you can't put new wine into old wineskins. And the old wineskins are those beliefs and forms and dogmas and structures that limit the ability for that frothy, yeasty new wine that needs to do its fermentation process. And those old doctrines, those old dogmas no longer suit you. That's that old wineskin that is, it's going to burst, is what he says, because it can't handle it. You can't handle the truth, as Jack Nicholson said. And that false belief within you, that old wineskin, cannot handle the life-giving spiritus, the spirit. There's no accident that the word for alcohol and the word for ghost and the word for spirituality all came from the same word, spiritus. But that yeasty, frothy fermentation process is coming forth, and it's invisible, and it's coming forth in you. There's so much in our Spiritual Power Tools book that we can use to unfold this process. Take it every morning and ask yourself, what's in my Spiritual Power Tools book? What's it showing me? What is it that I'm being directed to see right now? Let me get mine out here. This is your Spiritual Power Tools book. Take it every morning and just ask, and then open it up and put your finger down and see what you're supposed to see that day. And use these tools. Use these tools. Use the journaling questions, the 5 journaling questions in that chapter. I use them every day and have for years to uncover the hidden truths that are being revealed to me as I'm grappling with the problems of everyday life. Because the problems of everyday life are your gateway. That's the wrapping paper around the Christmas present. So take those journaling questions, take the 7 steps for successful life transitions, and do the deeper forgiveness work and do that journaling. I've probably averaged once a week actually taking the questions in that chapter on the 7 steps. And she also talks about the spiritual thermometer in the video. Use that spiritual thermometer to gauge where you are and where you would like to be and experience what's really going on with you. There's a lot of work in here about forgiveness. There's a lot of work in here about a lot of teachings about the observer self, about the makeup of your soul. The power and the strength is within you, but you've got to tap into it. And you've got to blend and merge with that understanding that is the infinite consciousness, the infinite awareness of God. In doing this, more and more, you are becoming that God presence. You are becoming that God consciousness. And many veils must be lifted. The veils are lifted one by one. Each time you become consciously aware of something deep in your heart, it changes your life. It changes your outer circumstances. So the life process of spiritual growth is a process of lifting the veils that prevent you from understanding who you are. And the hardest veils, Jane says, are those people that are the ones that are the most difficult to deal with, but they're the ones that give you the most benefit. And so when you're dealing with that difficult person, that difficult circumstance, know that this isn't a quick fix. You got to chip away at that subconscious iceberg. You've got to understand that these people have been with you before and they're here in your life to bless you. I made a sign. I put it by my phone. It said, "This can only bless me. This can only heal me." Every circumstance in your life, a medical diagnosis, something that's going on in your life, once you find yourself growing and unfolding, you use every one of these things for your benefit. And once you find yourself awakening in God, then you've got something to give to other people. I'll never forget the time at Unity Village outside of the gates where Jane turned to me and said, "What do you really want?" And it unfolded that desire to know God. She says, I said, "I want to serve God." I kept thinking I had to give it to other people. And she basically was saying, you got to find it in yourself first. And she said, "Don't you think you need to get to know God first before you serve God?" And so it's that knowing, that direct experience. Now is the moment. Now is the time, the opportunity to move in consciousness. But again, it's a step-by-step progression each day, each moment, with consistency, not intensity. So let this presence embrace you. Let this awareness unfold from within your heart. Jane says, pure beingness is catapulting you into God awareness because you are not this body. You are using this body, but you are not this body. And if you're not this body, what are you? You are moving into God consciousness. We're going to watch a video together. It's a little different because she's talking to a convention of ministers. And in the room, there was a whole gamut of responses and reactions to what she was saying. So you can see her pushing through that energy. But because of that, I suggest with this video, not so much listening to the words, but catch the energy and use it as a vibration that lifts you up. Let's watch this together.
We are souls in evolution. That's who we truly are. We are souls evolving into our full Christ presence, the God energy, the God power. But we can talk about all we want to. We can talk about, I am the presence of God. I live in God's presence. But we have to own it. We must own it. How do we own it? How do we become one with the presence? How do we become the spiritual being that we truly are? How is that possible? That was my question 50 years ago. If God is who I am, why don't I feel it? Why isn't it who I feel every moment of the day? And I had to say to myself, I am one with God, but I sure don't feel it. How do I become that which I am seeking? If I am the I am that I am, why don't I have greater understanding of that I am presence that's in me? That was my beginning of my journey. I was determined to know the presence of God, not just know it, experience it. So I began my journey. I began by saying, I want to experience you, God. I want to understand you. I want to understand everything about you. If I am one with you, then I have a responsibility to do what I need to do to become the spiritual being, God in action. God is man, man is God. Yes. But I wanted to own it. I didn't want to read about it. I wanted to experience it. So I began my journey to experience the presence of God. I wanted to know by my own personal understanding what the presence was. And I didn't have any tools. This is way back in the 60s, no tools. I didn't know about New Thought. I didn't know about a lot of these things that I know now and that you are already privileged to be doing. I didn't know. So I had to kind of do what one tries to do, which was I began to meditate. I began to spend each day at 5 in the morning, I got up to meditate because I said, Jesus meditated on the mountaintop, I can meditate too. And I'm going to find out what Jesus found out. And I want to own it. I don't want to just read it from a book and get up here and give you a talk on what I read. I need to stand before you saying, I am, because you are. And we all are one. But we have to own it. Do not get settled into, oh well, I have the right things to say. I have the right understandings. And now I'm going to go out and teach it, which is wonderful. But own it. Make it your own. Do not shortchange yourself. You are a soul in evolution, and you have evolved through many, many lifetimes. Many lifetimes. And here you are now, expressing the I am that you are, but there's more to you. Yes. Please hear me. There is more to you. There is more. Do not give up at a level and say, oh, well, here I am, a minister teaching, and this is good. No, it's our responsibility as spiritual leaders to keep growing. If we do not grow, we can't help the universe to look in a higher way of knowing who we are. Whose responsibility? I will take my responsibility to know that I am the presence, the power, the strength of the I am presence within me, whatever that means. And the I am presence in you is saying to me, wake up, let's move forward. New thought is growing and changing. New thought is happening all the time. New thought is new ideas. We are responsible for bringing new ideas to humanity. That is our responsibility of advanced spiritual students. That is who we are. And that's why we were created. And that's why we're incarnation right now. You are incarnation because it's your opportunity to become fully enlightened. Not hot pat a little bit, but fully. And you have that possibility within you. Do not stay stuck in, well, I'm a minister and I'm so busy. You're never too busy to know the truth of your being. That's the most important thing you have to do, is know the truth of your being. When I began my journey, the first thing that happened to me after I started meditating was I started to realize I had past lives, that I had lived before. And the who that I was right now was a result of my past, many incarnations. That shocked me. That totally shocked me because I knew nothing about reincarnation. Nobody taught me about it. But I experienced it. Oh, one lesson in understanding of a past life of yours will wake you up because you realize I was a little I way back 500 years ago, and then I was another little I, but I thought I was real. I thought that what I did was important. I thought that everything revolved around this little I that I was 500 years ago. No, that little I am presence died, left the planet and came into another body. Okay, here I am again. To learn what? To learn that which I didn't learn before, and to advance into new opportunities to grow more into the I am presence of who I am. I am. I am that I am, and I can say it from the heart of hearts of me because I understand it, I know it, and it is. And I also know that's the truth of you. But do not stop. I am not stopping. I understand that I am presence, but I am growing and changing day by day, moment by moment, because there's a lot of aspects to God consciousness. It's just like we wake up in God consciousness one day and here I am. No, that's not the way it works, and you know it. How it works is we become aware that God is I and I am God. And then the work begins. It doesn't stop there. Don't let your work stop. Keep working, because there's many aspects to God. And if I say I am God, I still have more I am God to go. Because God is many, many, many. You can't put a lid on it. I began to understand I couldn't even say God anymore because it was infinite intelligence. It was cosmic understanding. I want to go into cosmic understanding. I don't want to stop. I won't stop. And I made that my goal, and I shall not stop. And I will fight whatever I can within myself that doesn't want to move, that says, oh, this is good enough. This is good enough. No, it's not good enough. Never. Because we are spiritual beings becoming enlightened to who our truth of beingness is. And then it keeps growing and changing. And you have to be able to grab the star, take it, understand it, move on. You can't hang on to the past. Because if we hang on to the past, we're going to cement ourselves in new karma and new future karmic pieces. When I began to understand karma, I understood that my greater work was to help souls, not to create any more karma, and to do their forgiveness work, release, let go. And if we all change, do you know that 300 years from now, this universe is going to be so much more enlightened because we've changed. Because it goes out and it supports and helps. New thought is moving forward. It has a new opportunity to bring new revelations into human understanding. Because if we understand that we are one with God, if we understand that God is in us, then we are putting that vibration out to all humanity. All humanity. And I find so much that the young people, those are the people that are drawn to me so often. They want to be in the presence. They want to learn. They are saying, I can't go to religious churches. I'm not spiritual. I said, oh, you are so spiritual. Thank you. I don't have to spend the next 2 years trying to get you out of false beliefs. Find yourself in God, for God is in you. Now, the Spiritual Power Tool book was created because I didn't know what to do so many times. I said, how do I begin to forgive? How do I begin that process? Okay, I can sit and say I forgive, but how do I do it? I came up with 7 steps for forgiveness and to release and to let go. And those 7 steps have helped me the last 50 years like you wouldn't believe, because I've used them over and over. In my Spiritual Power book, there are the 7 steps for spiritual transformation. It works. It blesses thousands and thousands of people are using the formula. Also, I have the spiritual thermometer in there. What is I had to measure myself. Where am I? Number 1, if I'm on the spiritual thermometer and I'm number 1, then I am in the lower part of myself. I need to bring myself up to the higher part of myself in order to make a change within me. It's within me. It's never out there. Never. It's always within you. The power and the strength is in you. There is no separation except what we feel is a separation. And we have to blend with the presence. Blend. Just let it be. The presence is here. It always has been and always will be. In all my other past lives, presence was there. But I was so busy being a personality self and thought I knew it all that I never, ever took time to find my true identity, because I thought my true identity was who I was. And when I came into incarnation this lifetime, I thought, God has a plan for my life, and I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find it out. And it was to take this path, to work my program, my sincere desire to know God. To know God, that takes you into becoming the God presence that I was and that you are. God is in you. And there is many veils that have to be lifted. I lifted a couple veils and I thought, yay, I'm there. Only to find out there was another 25 veils to be lifted. And then I got excited. I thought every time I lift a veil and become more consciously aware, my life changes. My being changes. And I have more love for humanity. And everybody that I meet, I know I've been with before. If I like them, wonderful. They're here to support me. If I don't like them, yay. Absolutely wonderful. I loved it, Alice, when you said that. Wow. Yes, they're here to help me grow. The people that were the hardest for me to deal with were the ones that helped me grow the most. And that is the truth. So embrace the problems. We, at some point, at least I, thought once I was in God, or got to know God a little bit, that my life would be just wonderful, that there would be no problems. No, when I started on the spiritual path, I had more problems to deal with because I was looking into my subconscious mind. The subconscious mind carries and holds all of your past lives. And when you are working on your spiritual self, eventually you will start going into the subconscious and chipping away at that old subconscious, which will come into conscious mind so that you can purify it. You can forgive it. You can take it and work with it and release it. And then that karma will never be in your face again. It's done. Not only that, those people in your life that you're married to, your wives, your husbands, the people you work with, those people have been with you before. I've been with all of you before. I'm standing here with you, but I've been with you before in many, many other ways. A man, a woman, a child, something. We are here together as a group of spiritual leaders. But the thing that we need to do is first get one with ourselves. And once we are one with ourselves, we have something to give. We have something to give of ourselves. Of ourselves, we just be. Pure beingness is going to catapult us into God understanding, God awareness. And as I look around this room, I see these beautiful, beautiful souls who have dedicated their life to service, to humanity. And you are so loved, and you're so needed. But now is the moment. You have 3 or 4 days here. This is your opportunity to take care of yourself and move in consciousness.
Yes.
Move. Because that's the only way that you can change anything, is by moving in consciousness. Do not ever give up on your true identity. You have to, God, realize. You have to walk in God, be in the presence. Let it embrace you. Because what happens when you're in God's presence, now I'm going to tell you something that I want to share with you. That instead of the body, you use the body. There's a difference. When you're a body, you think you are the body. But when you're in God, you are everything present and using the body.
All right.
Okay?
Yes.
Got it? Thank you. Because this is where you're headed.
Yes.
You are not this body.
That's right.
And the body will disappear. But as I often tell my students, look at me as if I am a chocolate cake, okay? Just look at me like I'm a chocolate cake. And I'm going to make a cupcake. So I'm pouring my batter into a little cupcake tin. And now that is the form I'm using. I'm really chocolate cake, but I am just a cupcake right now. That's all I am. But I know I'm a cupcake, but I also know I'm the batter.
Yes.
There's a difference.
That's right.
So that is the truth of our being. We no longer are the body, we are the God presence in the body. God is man, man is God. God became man so man could find himself in God and then express as God. And wake up others to who they truly are. I can't say more than that. That's everything I have to say. God is, and you are. And I am so grateful to be with you who are questing, who are not giving up, and that when the moment comes, when we are ready to leave this planet, we have our God consciousness full force with us. And we just leave the body. I know that when I want to drop this body, I will drop the body at my will and leave. And I know that I live and have my being in another place. Even though I'm standing here talking to you right now, I am somewhere else also. I am somewhere else. There's many dimensions to God. And you need to be in every dimension.
Yes.
That's going to be the difference. God is in you. And you're my cupcakes. Every one of you. And I love you. I'm going to put some frosting on you. Thank you so very much.
Well, the God consciousness that we're talking about is a state of awareness, not a state of belief or something you read about, but a state of awareness that must be experienced directly. And as you develop your God consciousness, what you're doing is moving from your old understanding of yourself, your human understanding, into your infinite potential, which is right here in your heart. And each veil that you lift enables you to move more and more into God consciousness. I invite you to join us on Thursday night for our question and answer support group. Come join us at 7 p.m. Eastern. The link's in your chat room and on the website. Also, we invite you to support the Center for Enlightenment in doing this work in service to humanity. The link is also in the chat room and on the website. So here we are. We're all moving together, lifting the veils one by one, taking the steps we need to take, move into God consciousness. Bye for now.